Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over a brand new Planeswalker, Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears. So, let's get into it. Ashiok Sculptor of Fears, or Ashiok 2, if you want to call it that, is a blue-black graveyard-themed planeswalker. The three abilities for Ashiok are all going to be centered around the graveyard, which is cool. I like graveyard stuff. Graveyard stuff is fun, at least in Magic. So, the first ability, Night Terror, is going to create a Night Terror token. Then you destroy the top 4 cards of each player's library and draw a card. That Night Terror token is going to make it so that when a creature card enters a player's graveyard from their library, your opponent's going to lose 2 life. So as you mill away cards from your opponent's deck, they are going to lose life for all the creatures. Think of like Sir Conrad's ability, but like 1 damage stronger, right? The second ability, Sculpt from Ashes, is going to return the first card from target player's library graveyard to your hand, and then that card gains full mana. So unfortunately, we don't have a way to see our opponent's graveyard right now. I'd really love it if we had that as an upcoming feature at some point, just because we have a bunch of stuff now that takes stuff from the opponent's graveyard, like Sculpt from Ashes. So it would be kind of cool to know what it is you're going to be stealing. That being said, you can see what your own graveyard is, so you can see what the first card in your own graveyard is, and so you can determine if you want to get that card back for free. So one of the really nice things about Sculpt from Ashes is that you get it, and it's free. And then, also, if that is not a creature, then your opponent loses 6 life, and their first creature gets -6/-6. That -6/-6 is a permanent -6/-6 debuff, which is nice, and it also, as it's applied to the first creature, is going to bypass stuff like Hexproof. And then finally, the third ability is Never Ending Slumber. So destroy the top 6 cards of each player's library. Return up to 1 of each different support from all graveyards to the board under your control. So you can get some really wacky things happening with this third ability. You can get a whole bunch of supports, like especially if you or your opponent, or both of you guys, right, are running heavy support decks, you just get a whole bunch of stuff back. And because of the way that the first ability works, you can use that first ability to start loading up your graveyard. Or alternatively, if you want, you can just use that third ability, which is going to destroy the top 6 cards of each player's library anyways, and get some cards from that too. Now, one of the really nice things about this Ashiok Sculptor of Fears is that there just happens to be a lot of cards right now in Puzzle Quest that either bring things back from the graveyard or put things into the graveyard, right? So we have cards like Garuda, which is going to dump 8 cards into both players' graveyards from their libraries. And then we have, alternatively, stuff like Eerie Ultimatum, which is going to pull, I want to say, 6 cards from your 6 different cards that are not spells, so like creature or support, from your graveyard, and put them directly back into play. Or even at the common uncommon level, you have some really strong things at the common uncommon level, like Unbreakable Bond, which is going to bring back your first creature and give it lifelink, and stuff like that. So having an ability that only costs 6 loyalty, like Night Terror, that's going to be dumping things into the graveyard is really, really good. It also draws a card, which is a nice little addition. But on the whole, Ashiok works very well as a graveyard-themed planeswalker. And adding blue to the black is nice because the one thing that a planeswalker like Liliana Death's Majesty has going against her is just that black doesn't have very good access to card draw, whereas blue has an overabundance of card draw. So that enables you to fix really black's primary weakness. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at some gameplay. I've gone ahead and made a more Mythic Masterpiece heavy deck, and then I went ahead and made a Pauper deck, so you could see how this Planeswalker functions regardless of what your collection looks like. Let's get into that. Interestingly, one of my very first matches with Ashiok Sculptor of Fears wound up being up against another Ashiok Sculptor of Fears. And the first thing that I noticed in this is just like that odd angle that Ashiok's head is tilted. Like look at both of the Ashioks. They've both got like their heads tilted a little bit to the side at like a sort of 40-degree angle or something. I don't know. That was the first thing that I noticed, being, me. But let's definitely talk more about this gameplay. So both of us are going to have abilities that are going to be dumping cards into our graveyards. I decided to hold on to my abilities here, just sort of debating using my third instead of my first. And I'm holding on to the ability right now because the card that I have in my hand, Back for More, is going to pick one of the first 4 creatures from my graveyard and bring it back to the battlefield, and then it's going to fight target opposing creature. So that can sort of serve as removal, and so if I can use my third ability before I use my first ability in this match, then I'm totally down for that. Now, I'm looking at how things are, and I decide, you know what, I might as well just go ahead and pop it. I'm going to be getting it back anyways from the Mystic Sanctuary if I want to, because I'm going to be playing Mystic Sanctuary to get some gem conversion, and then that is going to potentially bring back a spell from my graveyard. So I'm just checking what it is that I have in the graveyard here. I'm checking to see if landforming is a requirement for cast, or if landforming can just be brought back as a summon. Landforming must be cast, can't be summoned. So I'm going to be bringing back Waker of Waves here. I really like Waker of Waves in this deck, especially with Ashiok here, because Waker of Waves you can use in your hand, and you can just discard it freely for its passive ability. So it has, at end of your turn, if this card's in your hand, you may discard it if you do pick one of the first 2 cards from your library and fetch it. And so it just sort of dumps itself in the graveyard, which enables you to bring it back for free really easily. So I really, really like that. Now at this point, I have quite a bit of mana options, and I get my Megalodon down. Now, if ever I'm playing Pauper with blue, I kind of feel like I have to run Spined Megalodon, because it's just such a cool card, just because it's a Megalodon. And then, of course, Staggering Insight, right? So I've got Staggering Insight here in my hand. Staggering Insight is quite possibly the strongest Pauper card right now. I absolutely love Staggering Insight. It gives a critter of yours lifelink, and it makes it so that, oh gosh, I give my opponent a 5 match. Oh well. But it also makes it so that you are going to draw a card every time you deal damage. So that's pretty great with the Megalodon, since the Megalodon already is going to be drawing us a card whenever it attacks. So that means I'm drawing 2 cards now every one of my combat phases, which is pretty sweet. So now here I'm going to go ahead and use my third ability. I've got enough for this Never-Ending Slumber, and between my first ability and now this third ability, hopefully I'm going to get some really good stuff. And I get a Lithoform Engine, which is really cool, because the Lithoform Engine actually immediately triggers. So I immediately get to use the Lithoform Engine, because it's counting it as if I'm using my third ability right there. And then I really can't complain about getting a Whirlwind of Thought and a Black Market either, because that's gem conversion, and it's also going to be free loyalty. So I'm going to bring back another one of these beautiful sweet Waker of Waves, and I'm going to make it fight my opponent's critter. You'll see that there's a bug with the fight. If you kill their critter, you don't actually take damage from the fight, which is wrong, but whatever. It's still worth using. I mean, you could argue that makes it more worth using, but in general, I try not to use cards that are bugged too much. But at this stage, poor Ashiok, my opponent, really doesn't have very much to do unless they've got like mass removal. My Megalodon has lifelink and hexproof, which is going to make it pretty difficult to deal with. And at this stage, I'm just going to go ahead and take another Back for More, because I can just keep dumping things in the graveyard and just bringing back free creatures. So Ashiok is finally using their first ability, and you'll see that with Ashiok using their first ability, it's making it so that we get ping, 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 ping back and forth, which is fine. It's not a big deal. And then Ashiok plays Zarethson. Zarethson is actually a really cool card to use with this Ashiok, and you're actually going to be seeing a deck that I built around it for my Mythic Masterpiece, but it takes stuff from your opponent's graveyard and gives it to you for free. So creatures or spells. Creatures or supports, I should say. So non-spells. So I steal a Thada from my opponent, which is kind of like, okay, cool. I use my second ability to go ahead and see what I would get. So I get Thada down, and then I'm going to go ahead and bake their Waker of Waves into a pie just so that my creatures all get their power back. I don't quite want to have them not powerful. I'm going to destroy their Black Market. Unfortunately, it doesn't destroy the Zarethson, but that doesn't matter. It's game over. So let's go ahead and check out the big kid cards. Alrighty, now this match was kind of fun and remarkable because I wound up just getting so much of my opponent's stuff. So the real core to this deck is running Zarethson and running Rexiel. So Zarethson is going to be able to steal my opponent's supports and creatures. I keep wanting to say spells, and that's not it. And then Rexiel is going to be stealing my opponent's spells. So between Zarethson and Rexiel, I'm going to be stealing everything that my opponent has to offer. Now, you might be like, wow, Nelthazar, this goes really against what you normally do. You always talk about how you hate playing with your opponent's stuff. But in this case, I had to try it. Like, there has to be some point where it becomes good, right? And when you're getting just this much free stuff, it definitely becomes actually pretty good. So, because just look at how much stuff I get this match. It's kind of crazy. So I've already taken their Garruk. I'm going to go ahead and use the 0 ability to make a Vicious Wolf token. I might as well start making the tokens. At the very least, it's going to counter Nissa's +1 ability to make those forest elementals, since this Doggo token is a 4/4 and her tokens are going to be 4/4s, so it'll cancel out, it'll kill her tokens, which is, free kill. I'll take it. Now here I was really debating if I wanted to take her supports, just because Convert Green isn't exactly the best thing ever for Ashiok, if you might have guessed. But I wound up taking it anyways, just because I was like, you know what, I'm probably going to wind up popping my 3rd ability at some point in this game. And if I do, then I'm just going to be taking a whole bunch of supports. And because I've got Zarethson down, I'm going to be actually getting probably like quite a few supports. So you'll see that I'm constantly checking my graveyard. That's because I had the Cauldron's Gift. I wanted to see if I could maybe get a Rexiel. I was not getting Rexiel. It was not meant to be. But I do get Avatar of Growth. So here Zarethson gives me Avatar of Growth, which is super sweet. Avatar of Growth does not convert any gems for me. That's because my green mana bonus is hot doggo garbage. It's negative for that matter. So this is what happens if you convert negative gems to green, if you were curious. 0 get converted. It's not like magically gems get converted to other colors or something. Just flat 0. So here's where it's cool that I got to steal my opponent's Garruk. The Garruk Vanguard has a minus ability to destroy things. And so now here I'm going to go ahead and search and destroy. So I'm going to use Night Terror. You might be like, Nelthazar, you said that you thought you were going to get to your 3rd ability this match. I'm pretty sure I do, and that crazy things happen, and I get like all the Vanguards in the world, but we'll see. So I'm going to use Garruk. I'm going to go ahead and destroy the Green Warden. You absolutely do not want to let a Green Warden stay down on a Nissa Worldwaker side. That thing converts way too many gems to be allowed. I definitely don't need to use the Hagra Mauling here either. Like, that's actually kind of a foolish use of a Hagra Mauling, but I wanted to have more black gem conversion if possible. So I'm just looking at my gem layout here. If I make that red landfall, that will get me actually, I want to say 6 mana, so not quite enough. But now here I'm given the option to take Nissa of Shadowed Bows or my opponent's Green Warden. Now, if I took the Green Warden, I would have had to have sacrificed one of my critters. I probably, in hindsight, should have sacrificed the Avatar to take their Green Warden, but whatever. I was just sort of having fun messing around with this kind of nonsense. Now, here with all of these Vanguards at my control, at my fingertips, I was hoping that I'd be able to use Nissa of Shadowed Bow's 3rd ability and just steal stuff and then just have her destroy herself, kind of like Jace Mirror Mage. But she actually specifies that it has to be based on her shield count. So you do have to use her 1st ability. And so I'm going to go ahead and check and see which of my critters I want to use it on. I do have a 5 match there, so I'm going to take the 5 match first. I cannot kill that little Garruk diddly thingy. I do definitely want Rexiel, though. So this is where the Avatar of Growth does go bye-bye. So we're going to give it the little salute. I do have my 3rd ability now, so I'm definitely going to want to go ahead and pop that and just get all the supports in all the land for all the people in the band. So I will be using my 3rd ability here to get all the goodness of the free world. So I will use Nissa of Shadowed Bow's 1st ability to convert some gems to blue and or black. And then I'm going to use my 3rd ability, and that's going to get me all the goodness from the graveyards. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Lands, 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 Vanguards. Oh my gosh, you just get so many cards if your opponent's playing supports too. And so at this point, the other Nissa is going to have a problem. Other Nissa is actually going to have a very big problem. Now here I actually do something kind of silly. I decide to take the Avatar of Growth instead of just letting my Supreme Doggo token. No, I don't. I don't take it, but I do actually take. I want to take this Green Warden here, which is the mistake because my opponent, that Nissa has a Nissa of Shadowed Bow's Vanguard down just like me, and that gives the creature menace. So it is going to make it so this Garruk's Harbinger is going to be able to swing through and attack me. But at the end of the day, it's really not too big of a deal. This Nissa is totally doomed, and I had an incredible amount of fun stealing all of Nissa's stuff and playing it against her. Yes, that meant that I was playing green gem conversion against a green walker when I'm not running green, but just because I got enough stuff, I'm able to convert enough gems to black to get my own matches too. So this is going to be about it for Nissa. Nissa is totally doomed. She has absolutely no chance here. I unfortunately cannot use Garruk's ability to destroy, which is sad times. I can finally use Nissa's third ability to bring back an Avatar of Growth. So I'm going to let it come back for Rexiel. I was kind of hoping that I'd be able to get another turn and just sort of get some more smashies down. But then the game was like, you wanted to have more smashies, right? Well, you've got this Cauldron's Gift charged up. And then I was like, you know what, I might as well use my first ability, and then that was it, right? That put me over the threshold. Nissa's gonna die. No more extra turns for me to do more silly shenanigan stuff. That is going to be the end of Nissa. So with this Cauldron's Gift, we're going to go ahead and take a Zareth's on back. There's no point taking the Rexiel here. I considered it for a moment to stall out the game and make it keep going, but nah, it's over. So let's talk a little bit more about this Planeswalker and close it up. In conclusion, I really like this Planeswalker. I very much like Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears. I really like using Liliana Untouched by Death, and Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears is very much like her, right? However, with this Planeswalker, you've got the added benefit of having 3 good abilities instead of 1, and having blue in the color identity instead of just being mono black. Now, Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears, the Night Terror ability, if you're someone who uses Liliana Untouched by Death a lot, you're definitely going to notice that Night Terror is only milling 4 instead of milling 8. Liliana Untouched by Death milling 8 is going to make it so that the card that you want to throw in the graveyard, or the cards, plural, that you want to be throwing in the graveyard, are going to be accessible a lot more reliably. So things like Eerie Ultimatum and Unbreakable Bond, stuff like that, you're going to be able to use more reliably to get things back from the graveyard. That being said, because Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears is able to use stuff like Whirlwind of Thought, you're able to generate loyalty a lot more easily, and you're able to generate cards a lot more easily, especially because Night Terror is going to be drawing you cards, and blue just gives us access to so many different things that are going to indeed draw us cards. Now, as compared to Ashiok 1, Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears' abilities don't feel like just as overwhelmingly powerful as Ashiok 1's. Ashiok 1's second ability for removal and third ability for that creature token with hexproof that just sort of ends games is incredibly powerful from a Planeswalker ability standpoint. You're able to just completely control and wreck matches. However, with this Planeswalker, this one is a little bit different, as this one is going to make it so that you're better able to utilize a bunch of cards in your collection, and you're able to play more, do more. And so instead of the Planeswalker being more powerful, it makes your cards more powerful. So I really like that about this walker. I prefer making my cards more powerful than necessarily having a Planeswalker that's inherently super powerful, even though, I mean, the Planeswalkers in this game are super powerful and I use them. I'm thinking of things like Bolas the Ravager and like Brokan and, Koth, Planeswalkers like that. But in spite that, Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears comes in as a very strong walker. So if you like graveyard shenanigans, you're going to like this walker. You're going to want to have it in your collection. As to what general tier do I think this is in, I have Ashiok 2 as an A tier, even though a lot of people argue and say that it should be in the S tier. I mean, you could make a valid argument for it being in the S tier. Honestly, it's kind of like a fringe S tier to me. It's not like a clear-cut S tier. Whereas this Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears is more of a Planeswalker that's like a fringe A tier Planeswalker. It's not quite as strong as Ashiok 1 is, just in terms of raw power. And I like Ashiok 1's mana gains better at +5/+5 instead of +4/+4/+2. But that being said, Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears is a very good Planeswalker. It's very much something that's worth having in your collection. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.